Sri Jayanasa, the mystic king and the journey that birthed the Srivijaya Maritime Empire. Introduction. The voice from an unknown stone. The histories of great empires are often told through vast chronicles preserved in royal libraries, through magnificent palaces, or through grandiose tombs. But the story of the birth of the Srivijaya Empire, a maritime superpower that dominated the vital straits of Asia for over 500 years, is revealed through a much humbler and more mysterious source: small inscribed stones found by the rivers of Sumatra. From the mists of history, barely mentioned in the records of foreign lands, a name appeared on these stones, a name associated with power, faith, and a fateful journey that reshaped an entire region. That name is Dapunta Hyang Sri Jayanasa. Who was he? Where did he come from? How could a nearly unknown king create an empire of such might? And what story are these ancient stones whispering to us about him? Let us begin the journey to decode the mystery of the enigmatic founding king of the Srivijaya Empire. Chapter 1. The World of the Sea Kings. The Strait of Malacca in the 7th century. In the 7th century CE, the maritime world of Southeast Asia was a space of great turbulence and opportunity. The Funan Empire in the Mekong Delta, a regional power for centuries, had fallen into decline, leaving a power vacuum. The Strait of Malacca, the most vital sea lane in the world connecting China and India, had become a strategic chessboard where small port states rose, competing with one another to control the lucrative flow of trade. Upon this chessboard were many players. Along both sides of the strait, on the island of Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula, small port kingdoms emerged. Prominent among them were the Kingdom of Malayu, likely located at modern-day Jambi, and the Tarumanagara Kingdom in West Java. They were kingdoms of merchant princes, wealthy from trading local products like gold from the Sumatran highlands, rare camphor, aloes wood, and aromatic resins. They controlled their own harbors, taxing the merchant ships that called, but they lacked a vision and a power great enough to unify and impose their will upon the entire region. The Strait of Malacca was a rich but fragmented land, a body without a head. It was waiting for a force strong enough, decisive enough, and wise enough to unite all the disparate pieces into a single empire. And that force appeared from a seemingly unexpected place, under the leadership of Sri Jayanasa. Chapter 2. The Voice from the Kadukan Bukit Inscription. The Sacred Siddhayatra Journey. Our story is told most vividly through a small, unassuming stone found in 1920 on the banks of the Musi River in Palembang, South Sumatra. This is the Kadukan Bukit inscription, dated to 682 CE and written in Old Malay using the Pallava script. This is not just a text. It is the journey log of a king on his way to forging an empire. Every line reveals a deeply mystical worldview. The stone recounts: hail on the 11th day of the waxing moon of Vaisakha, in the year 604 of the Saka era, His Majesty Dapunta Hyang Sri Jayanasa embarked on a boat to perform a journey. The title Dapunta Hyang is not a common one. It means His Sacred Majesty, a title indicating that Sri Jayanasa was not just a secular ruler, but a figure of supreme spiritual authority. And his journey is called by a critically important term: Siddhayatra. This was no ordinary conquest. A Siddhayatra is a concept with roots in Tantric Buddhism, meaning a sacred and powerful journey. It was believed that by undertaking this journey, a king could acquire mystical power, or Sakti, receive the blessings of gods and bodhisattvas, and thereby ensure victory and prosperity. Sri Jayanasa was not just conquering with military might. He was performing a colossal spiritual ritual to draw the entire universe to his side. The inscription continues, describing the scale of this journey. His Majesty departed from Minanga Tamwan with an army of 20,200 chests of supplies by boat, along with more than 1,300 soldiers on foot. 20,000 men. This was an enormous number in the 7th century, showing that Sri Jayanasa was already a leader capable of mobilizing a formidable military force. Imagine the scene. A fleet of hundreds of longboats filled with fierce warriors, departing from their base at Minanga Tamwan. a location still debated by scholars today. The inscription goes on to tell how the king arrived at a place called Matajap and conquered various lands. Finally, after a successful journey, he returned and founded a Wanua, or a city, a new center of power, as a thanksgiving for his glorious victory. The Kedukan Bukit inscription is the birth certificate of the Srivijaya Empire. It reveals to us a shaman king, a leader who possessed both immense military strength and profound spiritual authority, who began his empire-building journey with a sacred ritual. Chapter 3. The Sword, Merit, and the Curse. The Triumvirate of Rule. After his successful Siddhayatra, Sri Jayanasa quickly consolidated and expanded his empire. His center of power was established at modern-day Palembang, a strategic location on the Musi River that could both control the rich resources of the Sumatran hinterland and easily project power out to the sea lanes. The other inscriptions he left behind paint a complete portrait of his masterful methods of rule. First, the power of the sword. Sri Jayanasa used his overwhelming military superiority to subdue rival ports. He conquered the kingdom of Malayu, a major competitor, and established control over both sides of the Strait of Malacca. He understood that in a competitive maritime world, military strength was the first and most important foundation. Second, the power of merit. The Talang Tua inscription, carved just 2 years later in 684, shows another face of the king. Instead of recounting military victories, this stone is a Mahayana Buddhist prayer. Sri Jayanasa had a large park, a sacred garden called Sri Kshetra, built and planted with all manner of fruit trees such as coconuts, areca palms, and dates, with the hope that all living beings, including animals, could benefit from them. He dedicated this work with a prayer that all his merit would help living beings achieve enlightenment. This was an incredibly wise act. It showed the king was not just a warrior, but also a pious Buddhist king who brought prosperity and a path of salvation to his subjects. Third, the power of the curse. Meanwhile, the Kota Kapur inscription, found on Bangka Island right at the entrance to the Strait of Malacca, shows a more fearsome face. This stone contains terrible curses aimed at anyone, whether noble or commoner, who would dare to conspire against the king or the kingdom of Srivijaya. The traitor and their family would be punished by the gods and demons, killed by the curse. This was a highly effective tool of psychological rule. In a vast and difficult-to-patrol maritime empire, these sacred curses were the invisible garrisons, ensuring the loyalty of distant lands. With these three tools, Sri Jayanasa quickly unified the rival ports, forced merchant ships to call at Srivijaya's harbors, and gradually established a near-absolute dominance over both sides of the Strait of Malacca. Conclusion. The immortal name etched in stone. Although what we know of Sri Jayanasa personally are but a few fragments from stone inscriptions, the legacy he left behind is immense. He is the historical founder of Srivijaya, the man who transformed a collection of disparate states into a unified maritime empire, one of the most powerful and long-lasting in Southeast Asian history. He established Palembang as the center of power, a location that allowed Srivijaya to flourish for centuries to come. And he laid the foundation for Srivijaya to become a great center of Mahayana Buddhism. It was the stability and scholarly environment he created that attracted monks and scholars from all over, turning Srivijaya into a beacon of the Dharma, a place where even the famed Chinese monk Yijing would stay for years to study. Sri Jayanasa emerged from the darkness of history, undertook a sacred journey, and in just a few short years, laid the foundation for an empire that would endure for half a millennium. His legacy is not recorded in chronicles, but is written in the very flow of trade on the Strait of Malacca and is eternally etched on a few humble stones. He was a shaman king, a warrior Buddhist, who began one of the most glorious chapters of Southeast Asian maritime history.